Okay, everything should be live, and anybody who signed up as the audience member should be able to get in a few seconds if they're on. So if we're okay, I have Public Works up first. Mr. Watkins, if you're good, we could get started with that.
I didn't think that I was up first. I don't have my materials up. Can somebody?
Oh,
someone
that's fine. That's fine. No hurry.
What do we do in situations like this?
We could go to the next committee if you want.
Yes. How about if we do that?
You want to do borough property first? Ms. Martin, is that okay with you?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Let me just get my agenda up here. Okay. Okay, so manager's update is up first. So if you're okay with that, I'll start with that for borough property. I have two items just that are more informational than anything. It should take all of a minute. Outstanding items, I put on there the furnace replacement. I have repair there too, but it really probably needs replaced. At the Forest Hills Westinghouse Lodge, we want to replace that probably this summer, and you asked me to put it on there as a reminder right now until we get to that point where we're going to okay doing that. We'll probably need both the foreman and the engineer to put together the specs for that, but I have it on there right now as a reminder. Dave, can I ask you if you're going to assist Jimmy with getting specs for that? Do we need to do that at a particular time? Do you think? Do you have a time limit on that?
Specs for which?
The new furnace at the Westinghouse Lodge, putting a new furnace in.
Okay.
Question. I have a
Pardon me?
question. I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the energy services contract, did we get any bids or are we getting any bids?
I haven't seen anything.
They aren't due yet though, right? When are they due? March?
Middle of March.
Okay, because this might be something that would come under that energy performance contract.
Okay, so I guess, David, whether it's under the contract or not, do you need, if we're going to do this, we're probably going to need to do it before fall. I assume we're going to have to schedule it around the rentals that she has there in the summer. I just want to know, is there a particular point in time when you'd want to get specs ready, get an okay from council to do specs?
Well, if you want to wait until after the project that Patty was referring to, I have no problem with that. We're not going to need the furnace in the summer.
Well, no, but my concern is that right now everything is back ordered, and that's why I'm asking. Is that something we would need to have done sooner rather than later? Marcus has his hand up.
Yeah, I don't want to cause any delays because of that. I think we can just do it ourselves. I don't, I mean, that thing is, I don't want to wait. I think like everything is back ordered. I think we need to spec it and order it so we have it by end of summer, autumn.
So if that's the case, what I would do then is on March 23rd, put a motion on the agenda authorizing a council authorizing you to prepare bid specs. And it can be under the energy services thing or something else, regardless. By that time, we should have an idea, the end of March, we have an idea of whether that energy services agreement is good or not. So I'll put that on the agenda for then. Okay. So the only other item I have, Centennial Clock. I'm trying to put together bid specs for this thing, and with everything else going on, this is one of the last things I've been able to have any time to do. But I contacted the state to find out if the grant could be extended one more time, and they said they think it can. I just need to send something out by the end of March. Because I don't know that I'm going to get the specs ready in time I don't even have the budget ready yet. I mean, it's there, it's on the website, but I don't even have the booklets ready yet because of all the other stuff that's been going on and taking my time. So I'm going to try to extend it. There's still a little bit of time then if anybody wants to give me any input on this centennial clock thing. Otherwise, I'll just keep going from my notes from before. So I really don't want to discuss that. I'm just saying if you have something more, talk to me about it separately. That's all I have, Ms. Martin. I don't have anything else.
Okay, I'd like to make sure we get that furnace repair on the council meeting. You'll make sure that's on, correct?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
There is
Okay.
one other thing, if I can raise my hand. Are we, does anybody know if we got carbon monoxide detectors in the building?
I don't think you do.
Okay. We really should have those in the building if we're going to be running the furnace in its
Go ahead,
present
Jim.
condition.
Did you have something, Mr.
Go ahead,
Thielen?
Jim.
Yes, the carbon monoxide detectors have been installed. They're in.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, then, if we're all finished, then let's move on to the engineer. Well, okay, the rec board. I can bring something up here very quickly. The Recreation Board has requested that we move the recycling paper and cardboard bins out of the parking lot because that is a shared parking lot by the pool, not only with the people that use the dog park, but it takes up spaces for parking. And given that there's concerns with the lowering of the fee for the pool, that there might be more traffic there. They suggested a temporary move to 2 sites. One was Public Works, but when I looked there, there's really no room. The other place was the Westinghouse Lodge, but that didn't seem to work out well either. Jim Thielacker offered to dig into the hill and move the long. There's one real long bin. So I'm just throwing that out there for any ideas from my committee members.
I don't think the other 2 alternate locations that were mentioned are appropriate. They're not really going to be a help. There's already a lot of congestion up at the Westinghouse Lodge unless you put it in the middle of the parking lot. But that, I think, would be more subject to blowing around onto the road and such from there because it's a wide open space. The same with the municipal parking lot. So I think the solution of digging into the hill a little bit to get it out of the travel lane would be best, because you're not supposed to park right in front of the dumpsters anyway, and it's not going to take up more than 2 spaces or 3 at the most. So I think that would probably be the best solution of those offered.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Then could we have?
I would
the
just say
engineer-
that I would just wanted to state, so I agree with Patty on all points that she raised. The argument that they're raising isn't, in my opinion, necessarily a valid one. When they have great weekends weather-wise, the pool parking lot does get packed. And there's no real change, right? And just a little bit of, I guess, history behind the reason why we located it at the pool parking lot is that we tried to identify a spot in the community that was as centrally located as possible,
Mhm.
but also had access. And the other thing is that the majority of the people actually will take their cardboard first thing in the morning. I've kind of noticed there's like a rush there in the morning when I take it myself. End of the day, I don't know that it's going to really interfere with anything. How much effort are we talking, Jim, to kind of dig the hillside and move the one long one?
It's not going to be that much, Frank.
Okay.
There may be one dump truck load of dirt out, and I'll have to put some stone down, and then we'll probably have to put a layer of base asphalt on that
May I?
sits on.
So in my opinion, the bigger issue, quite frankly, is that sometimes that cardboard will spill over because we're not emptying that thing out on a regular basis. So if anything, maybe we can encourage more regular pickup because those dumpsters tend to fill up fairly quick. Would you agree or?
May I check in here?
Yes, please do, Mr. Lawrence.
Okay, two thoughts. One, I've been checking. I have a call into Waste Management to when they are picking up and emptying those dumpsters, and I haven't heard back. I believe it's every week. It used to be before they had the dumpster, it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, they emptied everything. I don't know what the schedule is now. The other thing I would suggest is before you do any work to excavate, you might want to check with them, is it feasible for you? You know, I don't know how they move that thing. So if you create a little whatever for them, if they can't move it, that's going to be a problem. So you might want to check with them about how they physically pick up that dumpster before you do any other work. And that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else on this? Okay, then can we move on to the engineer foreman report, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martin. The first item I have is to report the pickleball court line painting has been included in the 2022 paving project, which bids open March 21st. So we'll have that lined up for spring. The blight remediation grant, no change on that. I believe the solicitor is trying to contact the owner of 21 Marion to see if they would agree to having it demolished. I kind of doubt that since it is up for sale. There is a for sale sign on it, but we'll wait and see on that, see what happens. For the bird sanctuary observation deck, no proposals were received on February 16th, despite sending it out to 7 contractors in the general area. With the committee's approval, we will re-advertise, and I did get 2 suggestions from Angelo to for other contractors to send it to. I will include that, and I will also use Google and Yelp to find some other contractors to send it to. We'll send it to more contractors than we did last time, and hopefully get some proposals. I'm not sure why we didn't get any, whether contractors are busy, materials are hard to get, or what, I don't know. They were mailed, so they can't say they didn't receive it. They didn't, the email, emails sometimes go off into space somewhere and you don't know whether they got it or not. But these were all sent by general mail, US mail. So is it okay with the committee for us to re-advertise that project?
I vote yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, that we'll proceed with that. The final item I have concerns the Westinghouse Lodge. On February 21st, we inspected the basement of the lodge with councilpersons DeMarco, Martin, and Baoki, Manager Morris, and Mr. Thielacker from Public Works. There was a number of items that were noted at that time to be done in the basement. I can run through that real quick. There's a trench drain needed at the base of the ramp that leads into the basement. The entire interior needs power washed and mold remediated. The entire interior needs repainted. The steel bottoms of the steel doors are rusted and need replaced or repaired. The entire basement needs inspected to identify any asbestos present. I did get a quote for that. They want $750 to do that. That's the same company that did the floor tile above. Foundation walls need patched and repaired at several locations. The exit signs are needed, and the emergency lights that are there don't work. They need batteries. The roof drains need inspected to determine if they are the source of the water infiltration. Otherwise we have to determine the source of the water infiltration in 2 locations, replace the ceiling lights with LED fixtures, and finally, the handrails on the steps to the porch need replaced. Now, that last item is fairly important for immediate, I would think, immediate attention. The other items, what was suggested by President Erbaldinger was that we do a comprehensive inspection of the whole building. And I have sent out requests for proposals to 3 firms to do that. That would be top to bottom roof, the shake shingles, the HVAC system, the entire building, public address system, radon, gas testing, everything. I have not received those, but I hope to get them back. I asked for them back by next Tuesday for the CAL meeting, and I will let you know when if I get those. But the handrails on the steps, if you look at them, the bottoms of them are rusted out. And I think that that's something you might want to address sooner than later. I think the intent is to come up with a comprehensive plan for the whole building with this inspection that I'm requesting. But I think that the handrails might want to need attended to sooner because there are a number of rentals lined up. I'm not sure when she starts. I think she already has. But people use those handrails, and if somebody would grab a handrail and it would give way, they could be injured. And I think that's something that we want to avoid. So I do have a call into Allegheny Fence. I think Jim may have already contacted them too, to come out. They're to call me sometime this week to actually meet on site and look at those handrails and get us a quote. And I'll get some other quotes then to replace the handrails. Like I said, the bottoms of them are rusted out, and the part where you grip the handrail part at the top is severely rusted on some of them, not all of them, but some of them, which means if you grabbed it wrong, you could potentially cut your hand. And since it is rusted, then there's a problem, potential for tetanus problems. So I think that that's something that we'd want to address right away. But I will get you quotes on that, and we can see where we can go from there with that. And I'll let you know when I get the quotes for the comprehensive inspection. One other item on the lodge. Well, it's both the lodge and the pool lodge. Cindy did get the results of the asbestos testing for the floor tile, and neither one, happy to report that neither building has asbestos in the floor tile or the mastic, which is the sticky stuff that connects the tile to the floor. So there is no asbestos present in the floor on either building. So if you wanted to proceed with Cindy putting that out for bid to replace this floor tile, at least we know that now, and everybody will be bidding on the same thing. I believe the one bidder last time questioned whether there was asbestos or not, and this way it's clear.
Well,
Are there any
yes.
questions?
The last committee meeting we had, we discussed this, and I was real happy that we don't have asbestos there, but we do have other requirements we'd like to have met when we get estimates for the flooring, which I'll bring up later though.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring that up while I had the report in front of me. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Okay, I would definitely like to move on that with the fencing. That really does need replaced.
Yep. I agree.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
I'm glad we're going to be doing a complete building inspection. I hope that would include the roof.
Yes,
Dave, thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, then if there's nothing more, let's move on to the foreman's report, please.
The only thing I have is Avenue L Park. We had gotten one estimate during the pandemic for the large playground piece at Avenue L Park. It was probably put in about 35 years ago, and its main structural beams are made out of wood. A couple of them, I think, well, actually, one of them is rotted away. We blocked off a section of it. It's still safe, but we're going to need to get that structure replaced. And I've gotten one estimate. I'm going to meet with somebody else tomorrow, and I'm going to get a third estimate. And if it's all right with you guys, that could be something that you could take out of the bond issue money if you wanted to. It's up to you guys, because it'll be around for a long time. We're not going to purchase anything with wood at all. It's either going to be plastic or plastic coated over steel pipe or whatever. But we don't recommend using wood of any type for anything like that anymore.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll get some estimates on that then pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope to have 3 estimates for you by the end of next month. And we could disassemble the old structure, and we could also install the new one
Oh, good.
ourselves to save money.
Jimmy, is that going to need a different foundation? Or can the new one go on the same foundation space where the old one is?
Yeah, we could use the same space,
Okay,
Patty, but we're definitely going to end up taking out the old foundation.
Yeah.
Support
Yeah.
columns and stuff, yes.
okay.
Okay, thank you then. If that's the end of that, did we need to discuss anything else or vote? I think we're okay to move forward. Let's move on to the Environmental Advisory Council. The Environmental Advisory Council, given that we are having a better response from COVID, they would like the Earth Day activities to resume as we had done in the past. We would meet at one main area. Trash bags would be handed out. I have contacted a state agency, and I'm able to pick up free gloves, garbage bags and vests for anyone that participates in that. And we would need to have Public Works on board to, I guess they went around and picked up the trash bags at different places, but we would meet in the main park and decide where to go from there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Did they decide whether it was going to be on the 23rd Saturday or the 24th of April, which is Sunday?
They decided on the 23rd.
Okay,
It was the Saturday after Easter.
yep.
Okay, great. Then,
That sounds good to me too.
thank you, Mr. Burley.
Do you want some, do we want to do prizes like we did before for the various novelty trash items? I can get 6 prizes from the single-use plastic people, if you want.
Well, the EAC is discussing
Okay,
ways to get some prizes, because I mentioned that too, that it was kind of fun afterwards.
yeah,
So I'll let you know what they decide for the next time, but if they're a go, I'm sure they can
Okay.
firm their plans up.
okay. Because I can get some donated plastic alternative things for prizes. If that would be of interest to them, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Another item that came up at the last meeting was from an Eagle Scout, Otto Graham from Troop 90. He saw the article about the bird sanctuary in the Tree City Times, and he'd like to do his project at the bird sanctuary, Bird and Wildlife Sanctuary. And I think that's really nice, since it started with a Boy Scout and now one wants to do his project there. We will get more information on it, but he would like to build a natural outline, maybe use some of the branches around there. And also the idea to maybe build some birdhouses that could possibly be used in other parks, not only the bird sanctuary. But when I have more information on that, I will present it.
Wonderful. Good.
Sounds good. Mhm.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the Tree and Shrub Committee. Their concern is about Arbor Day. And again, given that it seems like COVID restrictions are starting to lift, since we invite the school children to come, I spoke with Mayor Porco. Originally, I think it was Dunkin' Donuts were served along with orange drinks to the school kids. And they were concerned that that might not be a good idea, but Mayor Porco offered to have snacks and treats in like a plastic bag if necessary, but he still wanted to have the children come because what's Arbor Day without the kids there, right? So I hope that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm fine, fine with me.
Mayor Porco?
Yeah, I think it's okay. Arbor Day, we celebrate at the main park outdoors. And our latest, I think, update from our resident subject matter expert, Keith Morris, seems to indicate that it's safe to even have meetings indoors. And we can always cancel if it's required to, right? Based on an uptick or spike in cases.
Mhm.
But the celebration of Arbor Day is in spirit meant to be done with the children, kind of talking about the importance of trees and the environment. So I think the best way to go to celebrate it this year.
And that's usually held on the last Friday of April. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe it is the last Friday of April is when we traditionally celebrate it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you. Any comments?
I have a
Gilligan.
comment. In the past, we have given a short presentation on for the MS4 permit to educate children on stormwater issues. And for example, one of the things is that to give tips on washing your car, to do it on grass rather than on the street, because the chemicals you use to wash your car goes down in the storm sewer and goes right into a stream and can kill fish. Things like that. We have a short presentation that we had given in the past years when this event was given. And if that one of the things that's required under your MS4 permit is public presentations, and it's a fine opportunity to do that. So if that's okay, we would like to be part of the program and give that presentation again.
Alcoasand also has a handout on stormwater management for homeowners. We could distribute that as well if you want.
I have no objections. That sounds like it would be good information.
What is the date of that, Arbor Day?
I believe it's April 29th,
29th. Okay.
but I will
And that's-
confirm and get back to you. if
Yeah,
that's-
let me know when that is. We'll get it on the schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any more comments? Okay, then we're going to go on to the committee business report. The first one up is the Westinghouse Lodge repairs, which I would like to include the Cindy Sims in this, because I wanted to talk about the flooring estimates for both the pool and the Westinghouse Lodge. Are you there, Cindy?
I am, Barb.
Okay, just to give a little background with this, at last month's first committee meeting, we received the first estimates for flooring at both the pool and the Westinghouse Lodge. One of the concerns was the issue with asbestos, and I'm glad that that's over with. But each in those estimates, detail indicated laying one floor on top of another. Given that we also had the idea of asbestos raised, I began to do a little more investigation, and I reported at the second committee meeting. There were 4 things that I have as a concern for laying one floor over top of another. If there's imperfections with the original floor, laying one over top of that, soon there'll be the same imperfections, especially if there's like a ripped tile or something with all the foot traffic. That could be a problem. That also adds additional height to the floor, which could result in having to remove the doors and cut some inches off so that the doors are able to swing. 3, when you have 2 floors on top of each other, there are air pockets there, and it adds to the potential for mold there. The 4th thing was, of course, the asbestos in the, God bless you, in the original estimates that we had, one of the companies indicated that if asbestos was present, that all work would cease. So I'm glad we got the test, but it looks like we can proceed forward with getting estimates. Cindy provided one, and we've been back and forth with different details. The new estimate, I had some questions on it. It didn't have enough information for me to present about the material for the flooring. We have heavily trafficked areas, and I feel that they need municipal floors, need commercial grade luxury vinyl tile. That's recommended, especially with the pool. It should be slip resistant or retardant and scratch and scuff resistant. The subsequent emails from the contractor indicated laying a floating floor. With a floating floor, the tiles aren't really, the tiles aren't anchored down. When they're sort of like grooved together. I don't know if you don't know about them. I had to do a little quick research. Okay, so what happens when it's a heavily trafficked area? There's chances that there'll be movement because there's nothing holding them down. And they can also have buckling, perhaps present. I would also like to see on the estimate, rather than that, that type of flooring, let me just grab my notes for a minute. Thank you. Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, floating floors are noisy because they have nothing to stop hitting wood on wood. Now, what I would like to see is in an estimate to remove the old flooring, including any adhesive, remove the existing cove base and replace. We want to evaluate the subfloor and repair that as necessary. Then we lay the new floor and then lay the new cove base. If we get this, these types of estimate and it works out, the pool is different than Westinghouse Lodge. As you know now, we're looking at the whole lodge to have Mr. Gilliland will produce reports on what is needed. My main concern with that is until we know what his report indicates and we have the total picture, I would recommend not moving forward with Westinghouse. But if we get estimates for the pool that are more in line with the recommendations that I'm going to ask everybody's opinion on, I think we could move forward with the pool. Ms. DeMarco or Mr. Burley, any comments, please?
I agree with your assessment on that. In particular, that the subfloor in the pool lodge should be inspected. I know we detected at least 2 places where there's apparent wood rot underneath the tile that they have covered up with rubber mats to keep people from tripping. So if it's in a couple places, it could be in more places. So I'd really want to have that inspected before they just put flooring on top. And I agree that we should do the pool lodge as soon as feasible and wait to see the overall building assessment for the Westinghouse Lodge so we can integrate the repairs in an orderly fashion by order of priority.
Okay. I don't see Mr. Burley. Are there any other comments, please, on that?
I would say, so a couple thoughts. Where did you, when you say that it's evolved into a tripping hazard, is that just because tile has come loose and cracked, or is there actual rot or decay of the actual subfloor?
In the pool lodge, if you look at the door that comes from the top of the ramp, the main entry door, right to the left side, the right side of that entryway, there are 2 or 3 places where the tile has collapsed because the subfloor has rotted away. There's usually a rubber mat over it. But if the rubber mat is not there, you definitely have a trip hazard. You don't want to put a new floor on top of that, because if it's collapsing in one place, it might have spread a couple of, inches or maybe a foot around that space under the tile where the floor is rotted out. Do you know what I'm talking about, Barb? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah. It looks like a place where maybe they had moisture seep under the sill of the door at some point, and it got root rot or wood rot into the place under the tile, and then the tile cracked from people stepping on it. And now there's about a good 4-inch hole there. And if it's in one place, it could be in other places. I'd want to have it inspected before we just lay something over it.
No, that totally makes sense if that is in
Yeah.
fact the case. I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not tracking with you, Barb. So are you saying that we should not put the luxury vinyl tile down as the replacement floor?
Oh, no, I'd like to have
No.
that put on, but I
Right.
don't want it laid. I'm sorry if I was confusing. I prefer not having it laid over the existing floor. I
Okay.
would
Right.
love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, commercial grade luxury vinyl tile.
Non-skid.
Right,
Yeah.
non-slip.
Right. Okay. And then okay. So I mean that totally makes sense. The only other thing that I would recommend to the committee, just my opinion, is that we should probably just ask our borough engineer to come up with the specs.
Yeah.
To go to bid with.
Yep, I
So
agree.
that's the pool. So if Dave's amenable to that, then I would just ask him to prepare the specs so that we know that there's, right where they need to be. And he can take all the other things into account. So it sounds to me like it would be a bid with an option for a subfloor.
Yeah,
Depending
depending on the
condition of the
inspection.
floor.
Exactly.
On the Westinghouse Rec Center, I appreciate where you're going with your line of thought, but I also think that it wouldn't be a bad idea to start entertaining the idea of breaking that project into phases, because I don't think if you wait to kind of do the whole thing at one time, you might never get it done, or you might have to shut it down for an entire year, which I don't think is feasible. So I kind of, just my opinion, and maybe, I don't know if Dave or other folks have a thought on this, but the repairs to the Westinghouse Lodge have just been a long time coming, right? And I think the best way to kind of tackle that is to phase out the approach. So maybe 1 year we tackle the floors, the next year we tackle the bathrooms, the next year we make improvements to the kitchen, whatever it is, right? But we have to kind of chunk it out over a multi-phase, multi-year approach, because if not, I don't know that we'll ever get it done, because I think we'd literally have to just take it off of the rental market for a long time. And
Well,
then,
actually, what I was thinking of doing with this is we were waiting for Mr. Gilliland's report. And until we have estimates for all the items, we have certain monies that we can put towards this. But until we know the expenses and what we have to move forward with financially, we can't go and prioritize unless we see how much things are costing.
no, I agree with that, right? I agree with that. I don't, and again, if I misunderstood, then my apologies. I kind of heard it like, my impression of it is that we were going to do it as one large, project. And I don't know if that's necessarily achievable, right?
No, that wasn't our intent.
Okay. Then I
I'm
misunderstood.
I
Then
see
misunderstood.
hands up. Mr. Oberdinger, please.
I agree with the chunking up, but like I said, we need to take our time to research it properly so we can start the project September this year after the rental season. I agree with Frank that we don't want to hurt the rental season, but I also think it's a good idea that Cindy really thinks hard what else needs to be done, like the bathrooms, and I suggested that we install a projector at the ceiling and a screen but for that, obviously you can't paint because you have to put electric, our wiring is probably 55 years old or more.
Yeah.
And we need to redo the electric first before we can paint. So everything can be chunked, but it needs to be in steps. But I do agree, we do whatever we can between September this year and April next year, and maybe do another season afterwards. So Frank has a good idea with that.
I see two hands up. Could we do ladies before gentlemen, Mr. Burley?
Sure,
And I'll get
so
to you
that's
next.
fine.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to
Very
just
democratic.
point out that I am very concerned about the moisture intrusions into the Westinghouse Lodge basement. I think that we're going to continue to have mold issues. We're going to continue to have deterioration of the inner walls if we don't handle that water. I know that we'd had a leak on a pipe at one time that has been repaired, but the wall behind which that leak occurred has not been repaired, and there is still moisture in that space. So I really am concerned that the integrity of the foundation is in question if we don't deal with that rather urgently. I don't want to have the health department decide we have a black mold and shut us down for health reasons. I would rather that we deal with the fundamental problem of where the liquid is coming into that building and deal with that in a definitive way. All of these other cosmetic projects, absolutely, we can stage them, do one a year, whatever you want. But if we don't assure the integrity of that building from the bottom up, we're going to have a catastrophe on our hands with no warning. I really am concerned that we need to address the liquid in that basement, urgently.
Thank you. Mr. Burley.
Yes, Patty, I totally agree with you. I sold to construction companies for about 10 years, and we had job costing software. And I know, Dave, you're familiar with project management software. And with those two packages and approaches, we were able to set up phases of the job. We look at it and we say, okay, this phase we're going to do first, second, third, and we put time spans on it. So I think what we have here is a project that needs to have some project management areas being done and being sewn together. Because if we don't, like everybody's saying, especially Frank, it can drag out. It really can drag out. And if we don't get some type of grip on it with project management and setting up phases for the job, we'll be dancing around this for a while.
Well, I'll guarantee you, nobody's going to accuse me of dragging my feet. And I say that as a joke. Mr. Gilliland, please.
Yes, I just wanted to add that I think that's a great idea that the mayor brought up with the phasing. And I think that kind of makes sense as far as when we get the report back from whoever we select to do the inspection. I think it would make sense to categorize the projects. So for example, roofing, the person that if you need a new roof, the person that replaces the roof isn't going to be the same person that remediates the mold in the basement or that does the plumbing things or the electrical things. So it would make sense once we get the report to compartmentalize, I guess is the best way to say it, the repairs that are needed. And we could also ask as part of that report for a prioritization. Maybe the roof can wait a year, or maybe like we talked about, the mold and the water issues in the basement should be top priority. So we can get a game plan and attack it that way. Like, these are the top priorities and these are the things that should be lumped together in one bid. And these are the other things that should be bid separately. And that we can also coordinate that with Cindy as far as rentals, because certain things may be able to be done while the lodge is still being rented. I mean, the work in the basement could be done separately then and wouldn't interfere with rentals on the first floor. So
Absolutely.
Once I can add that to the request for proposals, that they prioritize the repairs.
Yeah, we can't move forward until we get the inspection. Once we have that, then we can devise a good plan. I like the idea of that being prioritized. But additionally, back to the flooring, we would like to, Mr. Thielacker, we would like to see the specs for the floor before they're presented, if that's okay, just to make sure that we have what we would like to see on there. Is that okay? Jim, did you hear?
Yeah, I heard. It's probably gonna be a little bit more Dave than me. I'm really no expert with the flooring. I'll
I'm
be
sorry,
glad
I
to
thought
help.
somebody asked you to get them. I misunderstood. Will that be you,
Yeah.
Dave?
I believe that was me that was directed to
Okay.
start preparing specs for the floor at the pool lodge and eventually at the Westinghouse Lodge.
And
So I can get them.
I wanted to double check to make sure that the kitchen was included in the flooring estimate. Is that right, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Burley, your hand is up.
Did we ever put together a checklist, a priority checklist, maybe the priority items and then the secondary items? Did we ever do anything like that?
You mean with regard to the Westinghouse Lodge?
Right, the Westinghouse Lodge, yes.
Well, we're waiting to get the full report since we're not sure for instance, the leak and the water issue. Until we can
Right.
establish, what that is, we can't really go. There's steps to everything. We wouldn't want to go remediate the mold until we get the source of the water taken care of and dried out,
Oh, the mold is definitely a priority because that's very dangerous. So I totally agree with you, Barbara.
Okay, well, I appreciate all that. Was there anything else anybody wanted to say?
Yeah, quick question, Barb. So I have two questions real quick. So we're gonna do an assessment. Dave or Jim, do you have any thoughts? I mean, is this something as simple as like a French drain, just taking the water away from the building that could remediate the issue?
Possibly.
Yes, that's what I think.
Okay. Secondly, and this question is directed to our borough manager. So Steve, this question is directed to you. Sorry, I saw you just put your headphones back on. Being that most of the work that we would be doing at the rec center, I would classify that as capital improvement, right? And definitely a capital project. Could we use bond funding to do that? I would assume
Yeah.
yes, but I want to confirm it.
Yes.
Yes. In fact,
Yes.
we've already said, I'm sorry, somebody else talking? Yes, in fact, we've already said that, that we can, based on Mr. Erwinger's plan from last year, we were going to do several things first with Public Works. And then, as I've said too, you have ARPA funds that you can direct. ARPA, 600,000 some dollars that we're getting, 200 and some thousand is going to the Alcoasand regionalization. I'm not saying the rest has to go over to there, but you got ARPA funds. You got money.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. As we were talking about this before, the finances are going to be within our reach because the American Rescue Plan money could either be used for this or be used out of capital and then replacing out of that money if we can move it around. So I think we'll be in good shape because we're a small enough town that our anything we haven't allocated for the store system could go into replacing lost revenue category, which is pretty much unconstrained. At least that's my understanding of what we heard from Mr. Corbel before.
Okay, Cindy, did you have anything to add?
No.
It's your time for a wish list. I thought I heard something about a playground.
Oh. Yeah, eventually I would like to get a playground on the Westinghouse Lodge yard. That would be one of my wish lists.
Well, thank you. If you can think of anything more, please let us know. I'd like to move on. Thank you. I'd like to move on then, unless there's any other discussion. Thank you. So the next part is the Maine and Ryan Glen Parks Organic Invasive Plant Removing Project. What I found out with the cutting down of the trees for the culvert project is that we have many citizens, as Mayor Porco said, people were calling him, concerned about where the trees were going in Ryan Park and why they were cut down. And it brought not only about the trees, but the Tree and Shrub Committee is concerned with invasive plants that are in our parks, as well as the Environmental Advisory Council. When I was chair of that, I spoke about it one time at a borough meeting, but it was determined that it's too hard for people that aren't trained to identify and to know what is the best way to go about removal. So actually a resident, David Wallace, sent some information to me. I looked at 3 different resources for this project. One was Penn State Extension. The other was Penn Hills Tree. It's not Tree and Shrub, maybe Tree and Shade Committee. They also have a method they used. But the one that David Wallace suggested is called Nix the Knotweed. It uses no herbicides, no pesticides, which is important in these 2 parks since there are water sources there. It's a project that would, it uses carbon deprivation. So what happens is 3 times during the year, a group of volunteers goes in and you cut the knotweed down. That would be like around May, June, and then the middle of August. We would take pictures. It would be a trial. Then what you do with the, like the canes and whatever's left, where people go wrong sometimes is they throw them back into a compost pile. All that does is make the matter worse. What we want to propose is solarization. They're laid on a tarp with a clear plastic cover. And what happens is the sun heats this up, and then the seeds are no longer viable. So I have plenty of volunteers that would like to do this. I've spoken to the Rotary Club. I don't know if it would be an official Rotary Club project, but I know people from there might be interested in joining as well. So I would like to get thoughts from my committee members on this.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea.
I also agree. I was a Rotarian on North Side, and they're a very, very good group to align with. So I totally agree with you, Barbara. You're great.
Yeah, I am a current Rotary member, and I'm sure they'll be thrilled.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, it is a 3-year duration. So after the first year, we would hope that we see progress. We would measure and photograph so that when we go back the next May, we would hope to see perhaps native plants returning. Would then do another site inspection of both sites, and then the cycle would continue. And if after the second year we don't see native plants returning that would actually compete with the knotweed, perhaps we could start laying seed. And then theoretically, at the end of the 3rd year, if we're successful, this will have worked. That's kind of it in a nutshell, but if it sounds like we're ready to move on this.
Would you like to take a recommendation to the Rotary about this? Because I will be going on Wednesday. I can talk to them.
Well, I sent Ed Hyde a copy of the that Nix the knotweed method.
Yeah.
It was some documentation, but I wanted to just be clear that we had permission to move ahead. So do we need to vote on this, or are we okay now to proceed?
I support it. I don't know if it needs a council action, but I think I'd support that.
I support as well.
I support it.
Thank you. Mr. Morris, are we okay to go ahead then? Without an official,
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't
Yes.
think you need a motion or anything.
Hello?
okay.
Oh,
Thank,
was that not for me? That was Mr. Lawrence.
I don't think
Sorry,
you
I'll
need
stay.
a motion.
Okay, it looks like we're moving forward. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Is there anybody else that had anything to say? Okay, well, it looks like we're ready to talk about the band shell project. I believe Maureen Ryan was going to attend. Is she on? Okay.
Yeah, I can allow them to talk. Maureen
Yeah.
Ryan, you're saying?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan, you're up, you can talk. Was anybody else supposed to be on this? No?
I believe that's it.
I believe Matt, hi, it's Maureen.
Hi.
Hi, I believe Matt Stevens is also on.
Okay, he's allowed to talk. He's active now. Go
Okay,
ahead, both of you.
thanks for letting us speak with you tonight. We wanted to touch base with the committee about the plans to build a band shell on the property adjacent to the Westinghouse Lodge in the grass area. I believe Jackie Dempsey has already given most of you a preview of this or has mentioned it at Borough Council meetings in the past. So does anyone have any questions about how we came up with the money to do this, why we're doing it? Any background questions, or has Jackie Dempsey covered that for everyone?
Yeah, so we've had ongoing discussions around the band shell project,
Okay.
and everybody's up to speed
Great.
on it, Maureen. So you can just go into the asks, I guess.
Okay. Okay. As part of what we want to do here, in order for the money to the grant funds that we were awarded in order for them to get released to us, we have to have a project to present. The previous two projects were not, didn't come through. So the band shell is our latest attempt to be able to access this money. I'm the point person talking with the county. They do need to see us present a revised project scope. I've already given them a preliminary overview of what we're planning to do. They gave us a list of items that they need to see with this revised project scope, which is a narrative description of what we're going to do. The additional items that they need are architect renderings, a letter of support from the borough, and an agreement as to who is going to maintain the band shell once it's constructed. The feeling on the Forest Hills Community Alliance board is that we would like to use the money to pay for the build of the structure and then pass it off to the borough for maintenance and booking of events. In order for the county to approve that idea, we need to have some sort of agreement, understanding, contract, spelling out that language.
Maureen, I did call our solicitor, and he said he would be able to get that together, and that it would be discussed at an executive committee meeting on March 23rd. Will that fit in with your time schedule?
Yes, well, the county has waited 3 years for an idea, so a few more weeks is not going to be a big deal, as long as I'm keeping the county in the loop. Our goal was really to get the project scope to the county by the end of the month, but if that goes into April, it's not a problem.
Will you need a resolution of council on the March agenda as well?
From me, from the
No,
Forest Hills
will
communities?
you need from us a resolution of support from the council?
No, you won't need it's not necessarily a
Yeah.
resolution as much as a letter of understanding, right?
Okay,
But is this a grant application? Can I interrupt here?
Please.
It
If
is.
it's a grant application, lots of times attached to the application is a request for a resolution, not just, so you might want to double check that, especially the county often wants a resolution indicating support, not just a motion.
Okay.
You
I can-
should check that.
I can ask if that's something that's required, but that wasn't on her list from the
Why don't we
county.
just plan to have the resolution? And that way we're covered either way.
Sure.
President Erbaldinger, your hand's up.
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone that Bob and I had calls with Jackie Dempsey and Cindy Sims. So essentially, I think it's maybe for some of the board already obvious, but it needs to be fully integrated into the Westinghouse rec. It's basically, it becomes part of the Westinghouse because you can't have a concert and a wedding at the same time. So you can have only one event in that whole complex. So it will be, like Forest Hills events will be obviously free, but if it's like a wedding and wedding want to use a band shell, they can use it as well, but they just pay their normal rent for the Westinghouse. If it's like Forest Hills kind of groups like swim team, Boy Scouts, Cindy Sims already gives them like a heavy discount. I think they pay for cleaning basically. So it will be pretty much the same rental agreements like we always do, but like they have access to the volleyball court, so renters will have access to the band shell with all the stuff that comes with it. So it shouldn't really be a change at all how we rent out things. Everything Cindy will rent it out basically.
And Miss Martin, this is Matthew Stevens.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, sorry, I had audio issues. You said this was going in front of the solicitor the 23rd?
We'll have an executive meeting after our regular meeting on the 23rd, and we would discuss details with him. He'll prepare a draft, and that would be given to you for review.
Outside of any
reasonable?
outside any clarification from what Mr. Morris had mentioned, do you foresee any concerns that we need to address ahead of time?
I just wanted to double check if you need a letter of intent that was brought up, is possibly you need to.
Not a letter of
Definitely
intent,
need.
a letter of support from the borough, just saying that.
I'm sorry, support. I missed that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, a letter of support, just saying the borough is, accepting of the band shell, happy to have it. Go
Now,
for it.
that's what I was calling the resolution, I guess.
Okay, and I checked with
Okay.
Mr. Corbel on that, and he mentioned that Mr. Morris could prepare that if the committee voted yes, we want to
Well,
move forward.
If council
that
votes
okay?
yes, if council votes yes, that should be a vote of council at the 23rd. My only question would be then, if you're doing executive session, is the executive session need to happen before you indicate any support? It sounds to me like it does. But council would be the one that would say, okay, go ahead and write a letter of support. That would be by motion. You don't want to, this is not a voting meeting, what you have here, so.
Okay, well then, President Erbaldinger, is that something we could have then, an executive session before?
Yeah, we need to talk to our attorney because I don't know if he has any concerns. If it's like all easy, then we can just do the resolution and talk about the letter separately. But we have to talk to him. If we have to, we can have a brief 15-minute executive session before the meeting and do the resolution afterwards. I mean, we have to get the input from Steve on that. And depending what he wants to do, we do what he wants, what he recommends to us. So yes, we can do an executive session prior to the meeting if we have to.
Okay, thank you. I think, yeah, we should add that on.
Maureen, it is the case that we already have the grant, correct? We're just doing the specifications of what we're using the money for. Is that right?
Yes, the Forest Hills Community Alliance has already been awarded the grant. Yes.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Please.
I heard one thing that the group asked if we had plans to support the maintenance of it into the future. Do we have anything on record to do that? And what do we need to do that to support the grant with the county?
I think it just needs to be included in the, I don't know what we're calling it from the solicitor, the agreement or the understanding, that maintenance would be the long-term responsibility of the borough.
Okay, so the borough is just saying we're gonna, it's on our hands after you do it. We don't
And I
have to
think,
have-
I think the one thing we're looking to clarify right now, Marion, and I don't mean to step on your toes, I apologize,
Go ahead.
is this a situation where we can donate after the construction, that we can actually donate the building and construction to the borough directly?
That's the normal procedure, but I didn't know if they
And what-
actually wanted evidence of long-term stream funding for that.
Correct. And what
Doesn't-
we're trying to get clarification on is if that will fit for the grant.
Okay, so you'll need
allowance.
to let us know if we need to do that. I'm not sure how
Correct.
we would do that, but we need to know.
Yep, exactly.
All right, thanks. Sorry.
Great
Matt,
question.
you said it better than I did, Matt. Thank you.
Not a
I
problem.
see a hand up, President Erbaldinger.
Yes, we did the same thing years ago when this old CDC, they did pay for light posts and the arcs on Ardmore Boulevard. We did the same thing. After the completion of the project, we formally took over ownership and maintenance of that. So yes, I think there's a procedure. We did that I think it was 10 years ago. We did the same thing there. We
That is
own the
correct.
light posts and everything.
We
So
also
that-
did it for the dog
Great.
park.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
The
did it for
question
the
is
dog
if-
park. We also did it for the Westinghouse property, albeit it was already built, but it was basically a donation from the Westinghouse Corporation, right? So
My only question was, did they need verification of proof of a stream of funding into the future? I doubt they would want that, but I'm just asking.
no, I
don't
believe
get
the
it.
memorandum of understanding is just to confirm that we would accept the donation after construction.
Correct.
Just
Yeah.
verifying, that's all. Just
Yep.
verifying.
Thank you.
Is there anything else we need to discuss? Any concerns?
I think we
Yes,
need
Barb,
to
I'd
open,
like to ask a question.
I think we need to open the first concert with Journey. That's just my vote. Outside of that, I don't know that we need to talk about anything else.
Bob, Cindy had a question.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, thank you. So because this is really the first time I'm hearing about this, so this would be something that we would schedule concerts down on the field during the summer, is that correct?
The band shell would be constructed, if you're looking at the front of the Westinghouse Lodge, to the right in the grass area where there's already an existing pavilion and a fire pit.
Oh, right on the property of the lodge.
Correct.
That is correct.
It will be part of the lodge property, so you can't
Right.
have two events going on. You either have a concert or a wedding they can use it, but it will be basically become fully integrated, because people who use a band shell, they have to use a bathroom in the lodge anyway. It will be a complete integrated part of the Westinghouse Lodge. So you
Correct.
will just do everything what you normally do when you rent it out to third parties. You charge whatever you normally charge. If the borough has an event, we have to get it on your calendar before people book it. So it's technically nothing should change for you.
The other feature, Cindy, will be, if we can swing it build wise, is to have a retractable movie screen for movie nights in the park.
On the on the property of the lodge.
Yes.
Yes, where people would bring their own chairs or blankets, sit in the grass, and there would be a retractable movie screen for watching movies.
Okay, will there be any restrictions on booking events at the lodge? Because I can tell you from May through the end of September, every weekend is booked for events. And that's been
So-
like that for
I think-
over 15 years.
So I think what we can do is probably hold movie nights on an off weekend day during the
Or-
summertime.
Or Thursday nights during the summer kind of thing. It
Yeah,
it
in
doesn't
the
have to
summer,
be on a
right?
weekend, but it would be, movies
That
for
would work.
children and for adults. On maybe Tuesday nights, it's movies in the park kind of thing, something like that.
And then concerts in the
That
park,
would-
we may just have to pick a night where it's just not going to be available for rent, and we'll have to just pick it in advance so that you
Right.
know just that night it can't be available because we're having a concert, but we're talking about a max of a planned 3 events per summer. So it'd be 1 per month.
Okay. And when would we know this? So I can block it off on the calendar. Because people start calling the September before the new year. That's when they start taking
Right,
start
so-
taking reservations for the next year.
I think once we have our arms around the construction plan, Cindy, and we understand what when end of project would be, at that point, I think we'd be in a better position to kind of let you know when to do that.
Right. And movie nights
Okay.
specifically, my feeling is that those would take place June, July, and August only.
Correct.
That would be summer when the
Through the
kids are out of
weekdays.
school, just be summers on Tuesday nights, something like that, maybe once or twice a month.
Okay.
I
Good.
see a hand
That
up.
works.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Cindy, similar like with the building itself, renovations of the building, the construction of the band shell, everything has to be probably outside your rental period because we don't want to interfere. You don't have an ugly building site when you have people have weddings there or whatever they have. You know, we have to work around your schedule for that too. We
Yeah.
can't have it like.
Yeah, because I do have a number of ceremonies going on through the summer. So, and that's where they have their ceremonies right there adjacent to the pavilion. So,
Yes.
yeah, if it's retractable, then there's no problem.
But I mean, we have to build it like, I think after September, just to make sure we don't interfere with you.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, well, I see our next step forward. Maybe I'll call the solicitor and talk with him more in depth about the plan, and then we'll know better after our meeting on the 23rd of March. Maureen or Matt, do you have any other questions or concerns?
Not at this time, no. I think we'll wait to hear what you guys have to say in a few weeks.
No, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to move on to my last item, which is. Oh, I couldn't understand what that was. Okay, the use of the community room at the Borough Building. I understand Mr. Morris had checked with Keith Morse, and I guess we're thinking of opening that up. Is that correct, Mr. Morris, for people to use?
Yeah,
And that would be within everybody that wanted to use it would have to schedule, and that's with Annie. Is that correct?
right. We have to make sure there's no competition. It depends on who's doing it and what they're doing. Like, we haven't, because of the pandemic, we haven't had anybody using the community room really. Although some people, I guess, have gone in on their own without talking to me. But in any case, we froze that out. So, whenever there's something active in one of the other two rooms, because of the way the sound carries, you can't just have something in the community room that competes. So, we have to be careful of that and, access and things. It has to be within the right hours that we're open and things like that, because they don't have access to the building otherwise. So, I mean, there are some limitations, but yes, Keith said that we could begin to carefully start letting people use it again.
There's a question?
No, actually, I talked to Keith myself, and that's what Steve Morse just said is correct. And pretty much we can go back to pre-COVID regarding the community room, but obviously we have to make sure there are no conflicts. I think the library staff, they want to use the kitchen for lunch. I don't see any conflicts during lunch hour, but obviously they have to clean up after themselves. So I think we can pretty much go back to pre-COVID. However, Keith said it's all subject to change. If some new variant shows up and everything goes back down, then we have to put it back on. So it's until further notice, basically.
The only other thing I would say is we've had some people who have not been able to use it, like the garden clubs that I know would want to get back into that schedule. So I would not want somebody else to come in around them, since we kind of halted those people. We should probably let them get back in as first chance anyway, because that's where they were holding their meetings.
yeah, everyone should be back who used to use it. Yeah, like I don't know, any committee, garden club, whoever, everyone should be able to back to use it. And obviously, we have to make sure there are no conflicts in schedules.
Right, and I think
Yeah.
as long as they follow the scheduling procedure and book it, we should be okay. And did you say, I'm sorry, Mr. Morris, did you tell me that we need to get that room cleaned? Is that it, or is when?
Well, I have a few things in there. I mean, we have a lot of chairs in there that we moved from out of the council room. I have anticipation of getting the display cases that I've ordered. I've started putting out some of the different things we had at the other building and elsewhere on tables to sort through them. So I would need to find a place to stick them now because I just kind of have them sitting there. I need to put them away somewhere, things like that, And then of course whoever comes in needs to clean up afterwards because we usually don't have somebody to do that for them. So they need to be able to, clean up any dishes, any cups, garbage, any mess they make, that kind of thing.
Okay, I just wasn't sure what you meant about, so right now it just seems like we have to move the stuff out of there to get it ready to go. I thought maybe we had to do like a big clean job on it or something, but.
No, we have the custodians regularly go in and clean that for us. I mean, regular cleaning, nothing desanitization type cleaning or anything like that, or no, I shouldn't say nothing like sanitizing cleaning, but
Okay,
yeah.
okay, did anybody have any questions on that? Okay, that finishes my report. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll go to Public Works then. I need a couple of seconds to switch over here. If you just hang in there with me. And I'm okay, Mr. Watkins, if you're okay to start Public Works.
Okay. All right.
Manager's update, I just have really one thing that leads into the engineer's report. And that's, some of you may know we had a complaint received about the condition of Forest Hills Road. The brick portion of the street, I believe is scheduled for work under the 2022 paving program. So I thought I would just mention that and then let Dave Gillen go right into his report so he can talk
Can
about
I
that
actually
and other things.
make a quick comment about that? I talked
Oh,
to the
sorry, go
resident,
ahead.
and basically she's in a wheelchair, and her wheelchair toppled over. Nothing happened to her, so it's good. And Public Works, I think, did a great job in putting a temporary patch. So now it's nice and smooth, but brake is still bad for her. So I think we just have to make sure it stays on our list. Like when we do the budgeting, it should be probably on top of our list rather than at the bottom of our list. That's, I think, all we have to do.
So that's, I would just leave that into Dave's report. And if you want to just hit paving first, Dave, and then go the rest of your stuff. If that's okay with Mr. Watkins.
Yes, I can do that.
So, Dave, got a question? Is there any way that we can move that street up to the top of the list?
Well, yeah, with the bid that we will receive, paving bids are to be opened on March 21st. They are broken down by street. So each street will have a total. And what we can do is look at the list. And if we are over budget and we decide we have to cut any streets, we can pick and choose which street we want to do and which one we don't. So it's easy enough. There isn't really a list of a priority wise in the bid. It's just a list of the streets in no particular order. And that street can be at the top of our list when we analyze the bids and decide what we can do and what we can't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
If you want me to continue with my report, I can.
Yes.
There's nothing much else. The MS4 detention pond project, again, we still have not heard back from DEP on when our permits will be approved, but we are waiting for that. We may have to request an extension on that grant. I believe that grant expires in June. If we don't get anything back from DEP soon, then we may have to request an extension. which is not a problem. It's just a formality. The Fall Run Interceptor project, that's the sewer that Alcosan is going to take over once we repair it. That's a multi-community project. Work will begin now April 1st. It had been scheduled sooner, but the contractor had delays on the project he was on, and will now be starting that April 1st. The consent decree, last month's meeting, we discussed the lateral inspections, which are not required, but are suggested in the current consent decree. And we discussed alternate ways of complying with that item rather than having lateral inspections at this time, although they may be needed in the future. The questions that was asked is what would the charges be? I found that most boroughs charge $150 for processing the inspection results, and the plumber's rates may vary from, they average probably around $700. So anytime someone sells a house, the seller would have to have the lateral inspection done, pay the plumber and pay the borough for the inspection, through the review of the inspection. Then if any repairs were required as a result of that inspection, for example, if there was broken pipe or root intrusion, then they would of course have to pay for that and have that done before the sale could go through. The only other item I have is that there was an item that came up, and Jim Thielecker can chime in on this too, that Jim brought to my attention yesterday. There is a storm sewer on Braddock Road that at the bottom of the dip where Chalet Drive is, just down from the high school entrance, that storm sewer exits into a stream. The head wall we found for that pipe has moved. The recent rains or prior rains, we never noticed it, have pushed that head wall out and dislocated at least one section, possibly two sections of pipe. So we met there, and the problem is that it is causing subsidence of the ground around it, erosion of the ground around it, which is threatening the driveway of a house on Braddock Road. So we had a contractor look at it today, and our recommendation, working with him on it, would be to take and get rid of the head wall because it's enormous and it cannot be reset back into place because it's just too heavy. So we would pulverize that existing head wall and make it into a gravel consistency, not a small gravel, but a larger gravel consistency, and then add more stone around it and replace the pipe that was dislocated with new pipe, which would be plastic pipe. And the total estimate that this contractor gave us, which was Lawson Excavating, was $15,920. And I believe, Steve Morris, I think I did email you the proposal.
I got something. I was kind of busy. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Sorry.
So the borough does, well, you do have a written copy of the proposal. I believe that this was something that would be considered an emergency project because it is, if we don't do anything with it, it will cause damage, additional damage or damage period to the driveway of the residents there. I don't know the address of the house, but it's on Braddock Road. And therefore, since there is a potential to damage private property, I would think that this would be classified as an emergency, which bypasses the requirements put in place by the state, where we would get three. Since it's under 21,000, we would be required to get 3 quotes. But if we only got 1 quote, we can only need to get 1 quote if it's an emergency job. Jim, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I agree with Dave. If we get a couple more big rains here, part of his driveway is probably going to cave in, and then we're going to end up replacing some sections of concrete driveway also. And he won't be able to access his vehicles in and out of his property there at all.
Dave or Jimmy, can you give me like the closest intersection on Braddock?
Chalet.
Chalet?
Chalet Court, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Chalet Drive. And
Drive,
also, I
Chalet
think
Drive.
that address was 970 Braddock Road, 970.
You're correct. I do have the map in front of me. It is 970. The person who would not be able to use their driveway if erosion continues.
Is that the first house right after the high school?
No, actually, it's directly, if you came down Chalet Drive and kept driving straight, that's the house you would hit.
Okay,
Okay.
So it's the opposite side of the street from Chalet.
okay.
So what do we need to do to get this emergency project rolling?
We would need a vote of the committee, which would be ratified at the next business meeting of council. The motion would read to authorize Lawson Excavating to perform repairs on the storm sewer at 970 Braddock Road in the amount of $15,920. So that we would need the opinion of the committee and anyone else from council that wanted to chime in if that meets with their approval. And if so, we will go ahead and get the contracts issued and get the work done. And then it would have to be ratified by full vote of council at the business meeting this month.
All right. Do we do a voice vote on that now, or Steve, what would the procedure be?
The members of your committee have any objections should speak now. Other than that,
Yeah,
let's just move forward.
If nobody has any objection,
Any objections? No. No. All right.
Okay, hearing no objections, then we will proceed and get contracts drawn up with the contractor and get them started ASAP. I think we're planning to try to get it done this week because it is, they are predicting heavy rains again this coming weekend. And we'd like to get it done before the rains come and cause further damage. And that's all I have to report unless there's any other questions.
No, I don't have any other, does anyone else have questions? No. All right, foreman's report.
Okay, I just got my list of projects there for coming up for March. And I'm not going to read through them. If anybody has any questions with any, please ask. Otherwise, that's it. I don't have anything else to report.
Thank you. Okay, next we go on to committee business report. There is no report for committee business. So I believe that's everything for Public Works. If anyone has any questions or any other issues that we need to consider, please speak up now. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your presentations, for your reports. Steve, I guess
Thank
we
you.
can go on to the next committee.
okay, public safety is next. Give me a few seconds. I'll be right with you. And I'm good to go, Mr. Baoki.
Okay, Mr. Morris, manager's update.
Yeah, the manager's update is only, I don't have really any report, just a reminder that we're working on cameras, security cameras in various locations. We're still working to do some upgrades here in the building. When we get ready, or if there's anything unusual with that, we'll let you know. But other than that, there's nothing new to report right now.
Okay, thank you. We have the utility and bills for the volunteer fire department. They're there in the agenda that you have. I would like to move this to the business meeting agenda for a vote.
Well, no, it's already been voted on.
That has been voted.
This is-
Okay.
Yeah, all these.
Yeah, you're okay to move forward on that.
Yeah, this is just a delayed report that was started in the past, by a past president who wanted this reported every month. So it continued onto this year.
Okay, we may take a look at that, see if we want to continue that.
Okay.
I'll let you know the next time.
Okay.
There is no EMS report. Do you know when that'll be available?
Usually it takes them a few days because it's the end of this is the beginning of the month, March 1st. It usually gives it to me for the previous month. So I'm assuming it'll be a few days. I hope it'll be ready for Kyle.
Okay, thank you. Under committee business report, I don't have anything under committee business report per se. The chief is going to be given a report in a moment, but I will say that we do have some additional items that will be reported in the future at the business meeting. Those are a part of your agenda as well. We're going to be working to fine tune that unless there's some question from other committee members. That's how we're going to proceed.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
hearing none. Okay, thank you. Chief's report.
Thank you, Mr. Bioki. I just want to cover a few things. I think you received a copy of my public report today. You should have seen that in your email.
Yeah.
Is that something that everybody is content with as far as, that would be something we may push out to Savvy Citizen and some other areas in the future to make sure we can get that information out there.
Chief, it's attached to their agenda, I believe. Yeah.
I have
Yeah, we do have that. Yeah, there's just maybe one or two items here, but we could discuss it offline.
Okay, so basically that's not a bad format for this then.
Yeah. I do
Yeah.
have a quick question.
Yes.
You had two pedestrian vehicle collision incidents. And I had wanted to know if you could give me details on them. They aren't on this report. I believe they were on the January report.
Yes.
I would like to have those for our active transportation policy. If you could give me details of the incidents that occurred that involved pedestrians and vehicles.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
All right, so if we're good with that, we'll begin to do that on a regular basis. We'll send that on a monthly basis along with the other report. And we can, again, once we get the Savvy up and running as well as we want it to be, we can publish that as well on a monthly basis to get that information out there.
Great idea, Patty. Thank you.
Secondly, Ms. Martin, I just want to let you know that we created a storage area where the canine area was. So I should be able to move the boxes that were in that back area up to our building for the future. So they'll be removed soon. And some of the other material that belongs to us will also be removed as well from the rec center's basement.
That's music to my ears. Thank you.
All right. I wanted to mention tonight that, I know that I've spoken to the head of the committee and Mr. Erbaldinger and the mayor about trying to do something to protect our employees in the future here, where we could move part-time people to full-time in some fashion so that we can maintain our retainment, knowing that at this point in time, we have one officer who's off and has been off for several years now with an injury. And, there's a possibility he may be moving on to compensation and off to retirement. So currently we're short an officer, basically. We've been short an officer for a few years. That's a full-time officer. And we have at least two that we know of that may be retiring in the next year. So I'm concerned about retainment from my part-time people, because again, everybody who's part-time as a police officer would probably want to be full-time rather than part-time. So that's something I just want to throw out there and make you, start thinking about that. And again, the whole premise of police work is not to be a part-time officer, it's to be a full-time officer. And from the time we started our part-time plan, which has probably been about 8 years ago now, we had a different scenario with the amount of people that would apply for a job. In the last 6 or 7 years now, we haven't been as lucky with part-time officers as we had been in the past. So again, that's something that I also would like you to think about is if we're going to lose 2 more full-time officers in the near future here, along with the other one, which would be 3, we're a 10-man department. That's 30% of our police department. So this is a bit of a problem. And I want to just stress to you that I'm talking about this now here in March for a problem that's going to be created here probably in January of next year. But again, this is not something that's going to happen quickly. And I need you to start thinking about that, especially this committee and, the rest of council. In the future, we need to, take some action here, and it's going to happen fairly soon, I think.
All right, may I step in?
Yes, Mr. Lawrence, please.
Yeah, it sounds like this is something that should be pushed quickly to the HR committee and discussed, either that or in executive session. If this is important, let's go with it. So perhaps the HR committee could meet specifically in the next couple weeks to plan on this one.
Okay, if I could interrupt, I am supposed to be completely out of any police business as manager. So HR committee would just be the 2 members of council then, because I'm not supposed to have anything to do with police hiring, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's just so you know.
No, understood. And I will ask the president of council to chime in here on his thoughts.
I was just going to say, then if Steve Morris can't be part of that, then we should have a police version of the HR committee just with the chief and you guys.
Okay, that sounds good.
I agree.
Let's not make it difficult. Let's just move ahead
It
with
would be
that.
great if you guys could meet before the council meeting, so we can maybe discuss your findings during the executive session we're going to have.
Sure.
Okay, we'll schedule something in the next week.
Okay.
I'd also say that maybe the mayor, being the head of the police department, may want to be a part of that as well.
I mean,
It's a hiring decision, so that's different.
Yeah. Yeah, right now, we'll leave that the current HR committee of the 2 council members and the chief. And like I said, I'll schedule something for next week.
Sounds
All
good.
right, yeah, just let me know when you want to, try to get together, and we'll work that out, I'm sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sure. Good.
And again, I also wanted to mention again, the roadway is now under construction. We have officers up there working currently to maintain the safety of the construction workers right now. And this is just the beginning of a bigger problem in the future, because this is going to be going on for quite a while. And we haven't even gotten to the part where we move the traffic onto one side of the road yet. So just something to keep in mind. You're going to see some delays on the highway. And I have noticed an increase in traffic already on Greensburg Pike, because again, I think people have figured out maybe they just don't want to go that way, or they know it's going to be a problem here in the future. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Chief Williams.
Thank you.
And that is all we have.
Angela, I want to make a quick comment.
Yes,
Whenever
please.
we have a big PennDOT building project like that, the PennDOT actually pays for the police officers overtime and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that.
Yes, and we've had several construction companies over the last year or two, and they've all had to pay a bill to us that they have probably been reimbursed by the state for. So that's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it.
No,
for-
Mr. Watkins, Cecil has his hand
Oh,
up too.
sorry. Yeah.
Hey,
So-
guys, I was just wondering, have we ever done any kind of study to see what would be the best detour routes for traffic flow? Whether it is Greensburg Pike or Brenton Road, or just to circumvent something altogether different?
Usually the state puts out the detours. They've already put some signs out there. I think they're trying to direct people up to Britton Road as well as Greensburg Pike, because that's another way to get around this and get, to the other side of the Ardmore. I don't think they generally don't want to put people on residential streets. They'll try to avoid that. And anybody coming from a further direction, let's say east of Forest Hills, they may actually push them and just keep them on the parkway from Monroeville, let's say. I don't think we have a per se study, but I know the state usually does send out that information, and they push it out to the news media to give people detours. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more of that again once we push everybody onto one side of the road. That's where you're really going to have a slowdown in the future here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think that finally concludes our committee.
Actually, I'd like to revisit a point. If any
Yeah.
discussions are going to be made about the hiring of police officers, the promotion of police officers, I actually think the mayor should be a part of that discussion. The police department reports up ultimately to the mayor. The mayor was involved in hiring the majority of the officers when they were first getting hired onto the community. And I think myself, in conjunction with the chief of police, have a lot to offer the Human Resources Committee as it pertains to decisions that need to be made, considerations that need to be taken, backstory and context on all of the personnel that are, that comprise the police department.
I agree.
So I don't understand why you would make that kind of a decision and to do it unilaterally without even so much as a discussion. But I got to tell you, I disagree wholeheartedly. I think it's a mistake on the part of the Human Resources Committee. And I just wanted to voice my concern here.
Okay, any other
It
comments?
makes absolutely no sense to be making decisions about promotion or hiring of people that ultimately end up rolling up to me as the top of the chain of that of command. The police department is a paramilitary organization, and I ultimately own responsibility for that group of people.
Does council vote on it or anything?
At a minimum, I would think that this would require some discussion, whether it be an executive session or during a public safety meeting. It shouldn't be
Yes.
decided unilaterally by one person of council who made his opinion known.
I agree with you, Frank. That's good.
All
Okay,
right.
I
I
agree.
mean,
I agree.
council
I
has
agree.
hiring of police officers, council has to have a motion to do that. Like the
I
mayor does
appreciate
not
that.
hire police officers.
And I'm not
So-
saying otherwise. I understand how the rules of council work, and I understand what state law says you can and cannot do.
Right.
But
And-
I think I'm bringing forward a very valid point.
And let me say this. I don't think anyone's excluding anyone. I think the initial contact was or the initial intent was to get some additional information from Chief Williams on what his expectations are or what he would like to see. And I don't think we're interested in excluding you as the mayor from any of those decisions. Mr. Lawrence, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I agree with the way you explained it. I don't think it was an exclusionary thing. It was just a first step in the process.
I should be involved in every step of the process.
Okay.
That's my opinion, and I would appreciate it if you would take it back to council, either during committee of the whole, or this committee, or during executive session, and it requires further discussion, in my opinion.
Mr. Watkins, do you have anything to add?
No, I have nothing to add to that.
Okay.
All right, let's just push it to Cal and we'll talk about it next week.
Okay, agreed.
I don't think there was ill intent in anywhere, but let's push it to Cal and we'll talk about it then.
I guess now we are ready to move to option policy.
Hey,
Okay, give me a minute, please.
Boris, when you're ready, we're ready to go.
Yeah, give me a minute.
Everyone's tired. We'll get this done quick. Promise. Still getting things together?
Am I being heard? I guess I'm not being heard, am I?
No,
None of that stuff was being heard, right? Damn. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Are you ready to go now?
Yeah. Committee vacancies. I show three
All right.
alternate. I'm sorry, what?
No, I said, go ahead. That's great.
We don't have any vacancies on tree and shrub, environmental advisory and rec board, although we do have alternates that can be put in there. Neighborhood crime resistance can still take additional members. We don't have anybody interested though, but just so you know. And the rec board does have one alternate that can move to regular member because we have one slot that's now open on rec board. So we can move the alternate into the regular voting membership if you are interested in doing that on March 23rd. And we do not then have any alternates. Does anybody have any objection to that? I'm sorry, was anybody looking at me? You must have seen me talking to myself then, wondering what the hell I was doing for the last 5 minutes. And this is going on YouTube too. Hi, everybody. Anyway, so March 23rd, if you're okay. Hi, everybody on YouTube. I'm sure there's probably 3 or 4 people. My son's probably watching us. Anyway, if you no problem, I'll put that on March 23rd. Savvy Citizen, we're up and running.
Oh, may
Well,
I
go ahead.
intrude one question?
Yeah.
One question on the committee vacancies. Can you check? We have a representative on the EMS, the Woodland Hills EMT committee. I believe under their charter, that person as a representative needs to be from the council, and Mr. Thielacker is no longer in council. So we want to double check on that.
That's a good point. That's true. I think the president has appointed them in the past, and it was Mr. Thielacker, Mr. Tom Thielacker, the former councilman.
Right, and I believe under their charter, it has to be a council member, not just a citizen.
Yeah, I believe. Let me double check that, and I will try to get back to you for Kyle, if that's okay.
I actually thought I appointed Mr. Lawrence. If I
Did you?
remember right. I think so.
I'll have to
Maybe
look.
All right.
Let me check and I'll report it, Kyle. Okay. Is
Yeah,
that
no
okay with
problem.
everybody? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. We'll deal with it.
Okay. Savvy Citizen. I just report on that, didn't I? We have 612 people signed up. 60% of them are Forest Hills residents. The rest are people who have interest in Forest Hills. I think I said that already, didn't I? Of course, then again, I don't know. I may be talking and nobody's listening. So who knows? Hi there on YouTube. Okay, banner community is the next item. The ALUM officially announced that, and they gave us press release language. I sent an email to Mr. Erbaldinger and Mr. Mayor Porco earlier today to see if they wanted to include a 1 or 2 sentence comment about that. So if you look in your email, the two of you, I sent a copy of the draft press release, and I could put 1 or 2 sentences in there commenting about how it's wonderful that we're members of the banner, or that we named a banner community. There is several areas though to maintain the banner status that we need to look at. And I listed them last month and I'm listing them again here. Some activity in support of Local Government Week, which is the 2nd week of April. You can pass a resolution, do a proclamation, draft a letter to the editor, share info on website, etc. The DARE program is one of the things that we're using. I don't even know if that exists anymore. And Chief Williams, I don't know if he's still there or not. I don't know if we go to anybody for DARE. anymore or not, but that was one of the things we were using as something. I don't, none of the schools that I know of have anybody using any of us for things like career day or anything like that, although I could be wrong. Maybe just nobody wants to be a municipal manager, and that could be the reason why. Chuck, do we still have a DARE program?
We really don't anymore. We were
Okay.
pretty specific to St. Maurice and East Catholic, but we really haven't had much in the last few years. We may try to get into doing a thing with Trinity. We had talked about that, so that may be a possibility where we'll go in and at least we'll have an officer to speak to the the young children there. So that may be coming in the near future.
So those two items, the first two bullet items I have there, are things we would need to rectify if you're going to continue to be a banner community. The third one, the ALON compensation and benefits survey, I only put that there because last year with the pandemic and all that, they forgot to send us the information. So while we did get that survey report, we didn't contribute to it directly. Normally we do. But the two other things are things that you folks need to decide. Proclamation, junior council member, what have you. So please take a look at that so we can maintain this. Local government week, second week of April, et cetera. All those kind of things are things that are important. Anybody have any questions about that? I didn't think so. So let me go on to the next one. The Tree City Times is an outstanding item. If you remember, the intern reported that we should begin to look at changing that, and council wanted to slowly begin to look at that change over the next year, this year, 2022. Last time I had on there some financial data. This time I put on here what is involved in publishing an issue of the Tree City Times, a physical issue of it, and attached to the agenda is a sample schedule that Cindy goes through in publishing it. If you recall, Cindy is both advertising manager and editor. That's a separate job of hers that she does as a contract basis. That's how she kind of started with us and was doing things part-time. Then she became a full-time employee with the rec. So you might want to take a look at that too as you're beginning to decide that. There's some things I've already talked to Cindy briefly about. It'd probably be good to get her on one of these. She's gone now, but for example, you'd still need an editor even if you're going electronic. Depending on what you're going to have the thing look like, you still may want to have somebody doing design. The only reason why I say that is because the Post-Gazette, for example, uses most of their papers 5 days a week electronically, but they give you a version that looks like the paper. So you still have to have a designer doing something like that. Now, that would be totally up to you folks, of course. I'm just telling you, those are some things you need to consider as well as we're doing this. I don't know where you want to go from here. I didn't put the cost stuff back on here again because I've had that on there for 2 or 3 months in a row. So you can take a look at the last couple of borough property, ops and policy agendas to see that. But that's publishing schedule is something else you should be considering as you begin to make a decision about moving to electronic version. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, I would suggest the committee look at those numbers, and we just started Savvy Citizen. I think we're going to work with that for several months, and we are going to have to make some decisions about moving away from the Tree City Times as a paper thing. There may be some alternate ways, maybe only do it once a year or twice a year, cut it down to something less expensive. But I would suggest to the committee we hold our horses for 3 months and then revisit what were the thoughts about the Tree City Times and get both the committee members to have some thoughts and the entire council, and then we'll act on it. But let's hold for 3 months. Anyone have any issues on that one?
Okay, well, that's good. I'm done then, Mr. Lawrence. I don't have anything else to report.
Okay. I do have 2 things very quickly in reverse order. There was a request about the right to respond procedures. I talked to Mr. Corbel today. We will put something together. Any citizen who has a question about how to respond, the borough manager will have that available to that constituent if they need something. So basically, if somebody wants to respond, as Mr. Tomaso asked last week, he'll just go, that person will go to the borough manager and will provide writing, so how they do that. Okay? The other thing is, and I want to be careful here, one of the things is we've sort of discovered there's a lot of stuff in the basement of the Westinghouse Rec Center that is, they're records and they need to be taken care of. And it awakens a bigger question I'm going to bring up to the committee and the council. I'm not going to suggest any particular action tonight. What I'm suggesting is that we have a lot of records that have to be maintained under state law, both the police, what Wendy does and Mr. Morris does, and I'm not sure we have a very tight protocol that tracks all of that, so it's easy to do. Everyone's doing a good job of it. I know Wendy does a great job of tracking her documents and packing them up and make sure they're protected and destroyed when they need to be destroyed. But I'm not sure we have a protocol borough-wide to handle this. And it's my suggestion that we might consider creating a protocol that everyone can follow, and it's written down so as people leave and personnel changes, we know everything's handled. It's not a difficult thing to do, but I would like to suggest this committee consider creating a protocol with the borough manager and his approval, that it would be on paper, anyone could know this is our protocol and it would be followed. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I want to chime in real quick because what we follow is the state law, the State Records
Right.
Retention Act. So that is
Yeah.
already written down and I could show it to anybody who wants to see it as far as that's
Okay.
concerned. The problem really is with permanent files that we have to keep. And there is like 5 or 6 dozen boxes of them over in the basement of the Rec Lodge. And in the old building, they were scattered throughout the building and in the basement of the Rec Lodge. So those are the things that need dealt with. I'm looking at, after talking with Ms. Martin some, I'm looking at, and actually I think Mr. Lawrence was there too when we were discussing, but at whether or not we can go to a record storage and what the cost would be. And I'm looking to see if one company that I believe is on the state contract can be used, which would eliminate us from having to bid the service, and that's Iron Mountain.
I was going
And
to say,
I'm
is that
talking-
Iron Mountain?
Yeah, I'm talking with them right now, and they believe that they are on the state contract, which eliminates us from having to bid. And you would pay a certain amount of money every year to have them store the records, but then you'd be able to get them. Now, we also need to look at what can be put on electronic storage, microfilm, et cetera. Right now, as far as I know, most of the stuff can be put on electronic, but you still have to keep the paper copy, as far as I know.
Okay.
That's something we haven't finally gotten we haven't gotten a final resolution on. But the last time I looked at this, that was a few years ago. That's what I was told. You had to keep both.
Yeah, I was looking at that state document also, and I know it's mandated there. I just didn't know what we had. If there's anything we as a committee to make everything easier for all of you.
Well, Wendy has a list and she knows what's there, and she has a list of all the boxes that are over there and what the general contents is. So
Yeah.
she is aware of that. And I've seen the
No,
list.
I know she's got her
Yeah.
hands on that really good. I know that the police have some questions and of storage, and I wanted to just at least bring up whether that was in compliance with the state law. His proposal to put things in the old the kennel.
Well, he's just putting them in a location. That's all. It's not really. But yeah, I mean, those things are things that maybe also could go to a permanent storage facility if you want to do that. I don't know what police records. I don't know what the law is regarding police records, so I don't want to be an expert on that, whether there's anything different there. I think it's
I'm
the
not
same
either,
law.
and that's why I brought the whole question up, because I wondered if this is something that needs to be looked at comprehensively, because it is kind of piecemeal right now, and I want to make sure that the chief's records are stored safely and in compliance.
We're under the same requirements as the borough when it comes to the state issuing those particular edicts.
Okay.
So we have to follow their edicts as well. Some of our records have to be kept forever. A lot of them can be destroyed over a certain amount of years, and it depends on the degree of the crime, basically, as to where we are able to dispose, and we do dispose on a regular basis. And
I
as
just didn't
Steve
know
said,
that we're going to
as
put
Steve
to-
said, we created a space in the canine area so that we have a new storage area, which will relieve that area in the basement of the rec center, at least temporarily, and we can move that stuff into there. You know, in the
Okay.
future, we
I
may
didn't
come up
know
with another plan.
if we were moving to putting things in Iron Mountain, which is kind of the standard everyone does, if you wanted to fold into that.
I think maybe in the future, we may have to, because the amount of the documents will continue to increase, because every year
and
there's certain
you
records
want
we can
that
never
something-
destroy.
Yeah, the other issue is that creates a liability for you. If you put them in Iron Mountain, if someone accesses them, it's their problem. If you got something in your building, our building, and it inappropriately accessed, we're in trouble. So it's something to look at, that's all.
So let's be clear about one thing, though. Anything stored on the police side is under surveillance 24/7, is under security lock, because nobody outside of a police officer can access that area. So your point's well taken, but the records where they're being temporarily stored until we come up with a permanent solution are safe.
Oh, I was not proposing.
A lot of banks are digitizing their stuff. They're digitizing their information. And their information is very valuable as well. So they have a hard copy and they're digitizing for people who are off-site working from home can actually get in if necessary. But I don't know what that does for the state rules. So that's the procedure that we're doing.
Well, we can digitize, but right now, as far as I know, we have to keep the paper.
Right.
That was the last thing. So, and of course, digitizing is very expensive. We
Yeah.
have a lot of stuff we've scanned in over the years, especially back when I first started here, we did some of those things, but it's still an awful lot of stuff to have to do. You need to get a company in to do
That's
it.
kind of a different subject. Bill, you don't want to have online access to documents that we're talking about. That's kind of a different subject.
Well, that's optional.
Anyhow, I was
That's
not
optional.
proposing that things were not safe right now. I was just suggesting is pushing forward. We might want to think that the police might want to fold into the Iron Mountain thing. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I agree.
Anyone else in the committee? Okay, as far as the stuff that is in the Westinghouse Lodge, Steve, here's a quick question. Get that out of there. Is there anything we can help prior to the Iron Mountain issue?
No, I need to get some numbers from Iron Mountain. I need to see what, I've asked them to specifically tell me what the contract requires us to do, what their procedures are and what their costs are, so I can bring it to council and get you guys to approve it if that's what you want to do. Once it's approved, then, they would, as far as I know, be the ones that take care of it, getting it out for us.
Okay.
So.
I've worked with them and it's usually pretty easy, but if you get into trouble, just give me a call and we can talk
Okay,
about it.
sure, yes.
Sounds good. I have nothing else in this committee unless any of my members do. Unless they do, so I think we're done.
All right, good night, everybody. Next Tuesday night is the next set of committees. See you on